Get your New Balance shoes and your jorts on. We're going to check out this C4 Corvette and why it won't start. Let's get started. This is a 1993 Chevrolet Corvette. It has a 5.7 V8 in it, and it is in very nice shape. Only 90,000 miles. The customers put a lot of time and money into this car to bring it up to snuff. And checking this thing over, I can tell you he's done a very good job. It is in very good shape. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 9. It's really nice. It's really good. Lately, the customer's been having trouble where he's driving the car, it'll run great for 8 minutes or so, 10 minutes, and just shut off, and it will not start again. And occasionally, it just won't start at all, no matter what. Let me grab his list real quick of things that he's done. He has put in a new AC Delco GM fuel pump, AC Delco ignition control module, AC Delco idle air control valve, throttle body removed and cleaned, new AC Delco ignition coil, new plugs, injectors removed and cleaned and reinstalled. All of those things have been done and it solved nothing. It still has the problem. These are all logical items that you would think, oh, I'll put a new coil on or I'll do this, and you get to this long list of things you've replaced and there's been no change. It still stalls on you. It still dies on you. I know what you guys are thinking. Duh, Car Wizard, it's the Optispark. We're going to find out for sure. It very likely is, but we're going to use this handy dandy MS908 oscilloscope from Autel. I use this a lot in the shop. We're going to show you guys how I can use this to get an absolute answer. You guys know that I like yes or no, not maybe. Let's try a part. I don't do that. We get the answers and then we make a decision. I've got a few things hooked up on this already, so to save time, but let's go ahead and take a look around this nice Corvette and let you guys check it out. Many of you guys probably watch Elliot Alvis's channel. He's a big Corvette guy. His dad has Corvettes and he's big into Corvettes. And I posted actually in the Elliot Alvis Prius posting forum a picture of this Corvette and kind of jokingly said, get your New Balance shoes ready. Everyone thought it was so clean. They didn't even care about the joke I just made. They were like, Car Wizard, that thing is so nice. It is like above so nice. It is amazing. And I agree, it is in very, very good shape. That's why the customer brought it to us today. He can trust that it's not going to get scratched, dinged, or beat up here at Omega Auto Clinic. Will be taken care of and received in the same condition that he gave it to us in. No cracks in the bumper back here. No accidental bumps into anything. The wheels are clean. They're almost like new. Has the iconic Corvette shape. I really love the shape of these C4s. It's my favorite Corvette. We do have a body gap because I have the hood popped so we can show you guys some information here in a minute. Beautiful C4 Corvette. Very nice. Let's take a look at the interior.
So welcome to the interior, guys. This thing is sweet. Look at all this classic 90s gauges. Love the orange that is lighting up. Look at that speedometer. That is so, so cool. Got a great tack on the left. Got all your other temperature and voltage and oil temps and all that stuff on the right. And of course it says check gauges because it's not started. I do like that this was during the time where we were doing that switch over in the States from leaded to unleaded gas, and they needed to make sure that we knew only unleaded fuel. On the side here, we've got a few good controls just for lighting. Got the cruise control on the stock there. On the dash, that dash is in perfect shape, not a hint of a crack. This thing has been in the garage all of its life. We've got carpet everywhere down from below the dash area. We've got carpet there. We've got carpet on our sides where you get to drop in. This is a drop-in seat. Leather seats in here. A nice soft leather gray. And a nice center console. This is an automatic. So maybe not as fun as a stick, but you know, as we get older, sometimes it's not as much fun to push that clutch in all the time, especially if you're doing traffic driving. He does have some lovely racing gloves in here and does have a radar detector. Not sure if that still works in today's society, but it's still there. Got the standard in the back, just a simple little trunk area because this is simply a two-seater. It does have a lovely glass target top that is looking in good shape, and we go back to that back glass as well. So obviously no headliner to droop down on here since it is all in glass. So there's our lovely ceiling to the shop. Let's take a look at the engine bay.
So in addition to all the parts the customer has already replaced on this, in the front seat when this car was dropped off, it's a brand new Optispark distributor. He already had his idea of what's possibly wrong. Let's go ahead and open the hood, look around the engine, and then we'll go ahead and test the Optispark. There is a beautiful LT1 Corvette engine. These can be kind of tough to work on the front, especially because there is a steering rack right in the way. And also a cross member. You can see the steering rack right down there. There's a pipe going to it. So if you have to pull off the harmonic balancer and things, it's a little tight in there. It's not too bad. It is easy to get to a lot of the things on the steering knuckle and the control arms. You can do an easy inspection because there's no wheel liner in the way. It's all out in the open. But these are very fun. They're lightweight and they're very fast. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Right now I'll go ahead and try to crank it and try to start it. And right now at the moment it's not starting. We're going to do some testing. Let me show you guys. I'll crank it. Nothing. This is the exact problem that the customer is having. Sometimes it will start and it'll run for 8 or 10 minutes and it'll stall and right back to square one where we are right now. Based on the fact that he mentioned he replaced a lot of those components already, I'm going to dial in and target the Optispark. The water pumps on these are notorious. When they start to go, they leak through the weep hole and pour all over the Optispark distributor and ruin it. Also, there are a series of seals in the timing cover that can start leaking oil, which I think has happened here. And oil gets drenched all over the Optispark and also ruins it. I'm going to go ahead and deduce that it exactly is the Optispark because quite a lot has to come apart and we don't want to just shotgun it and try it and say, let's just put one on and try it, and it ends up not being the problem. So I'll go ahead and get my scan tool turned on and everything set up here. And I already have the connector back probed at the Optispark. There's 4 wires, A, B, C, D, and E, and I've got power and ground probed right now. The first thing we need to know is the Optispark getting power and ground? It won't function if it doesn't get power and ground. So step number 1, does it have power or ground? I have it hooked up here. Right now there's 0 volts. I will turn on the key and it should jump up to 12 volts. All right, Mrs. Wizard, turn the key on. There we go. 12 volts. If we didn't have a good ground, there wouldn't be 12 volts. If we didn't have good power, there wouldn't be 12 volts. So we have good power and good ground. So we know that is not the problem. Go ahead and turn it off, Mrs. Wizard. The next thing I will do is move one of the connectors over to one of the other 2 pins. There's a high resolution and a low resolution pin. Basically inside the Optispark, it's not just a distributor, there's also basically a cam sensor. It's an optical sensor with a disc that moves and it can tell where the camshaft is located based on that. It sends a signal to the ignition coil to go ahead and start firing. And right now, the ignition coil says, I'm not turning on because I can't see that the engine's turning. I see nothing, I see no signal. There's no reason to turn on, I'm not going to. That's why it won't start. Let me go ahead and move this pin around. So I'll move this positive lead to pin A. So I'm at ground in pin A. I'll move that so you can see it. You can see the connector with the green rubber behind it. Way down in there. So, again, we know we have power and ground. That is not the issue. While Mrs. Wizard cranks it, when I tell her here in a second, we should see a signal go up and down, 0 to 12 volts. It should be a signal to tell the ignition coil to turn on. Let's go ahead and see if it does anything at all. Go ahead and crank it, Mrs. Wizard. Nothing. Go ahead and try one more time. It kind of moved a little bit like it's trying to work. It would like to work, but something's just not right inside the Optispark. I'll move the pin over to the low resolution terminal. Okay. Go ahead and crank it again, Mrs. Wizard. It moved just a tiny, tiny bit at the bottom, barely anything to register. There, and it tried to work there. Something definitely wonky is going on inside that distributor. Go ahead and crank it one more time, Mrs. Wizard. We should be seeing a nice zigzag, like a nice constant signal, as the optical sensor has each little, I guess it's a hole in the wheel, pass through it to give a signal. We're getting nothing, really. That's the reason why this vehicle is not starting. We have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. We know now that that is the culprit. And it was easy to find and get clear answers with my handy-dandy Autel MS908. This tool saves me a lot of money. It is very, very handy in the shop. I'll get this unhooked and we'll go ahead and put it on the lift. One thing I noticed offhand that we will fix for the customer is that this little bracket here is just hanging out in the air, and it should be connected to this hole right here. So we will take care of that, no charge. We won't charge him anything for that. We'll just put a bolt in it and call it good. Very easygoing customer, another one of the greats. But as you can see right here, it is oily. It's nasty, sludgy, oily. And all the oil that we're seeing right here, it didn't just drip straight down. Guess where it dripped onto to get to this point, guys? Right on the Optispark. Let's take a look. We can see a hose right underneath there under the pulley, soaked in oil, which means everything above that is soaked in oil, including the Optispark. That is also confirming what our suspicions are. Let's go ahead and check this wheel here. Brakes are good. Nothing loose there. Check the sway bar. It's good. The shock looks fairly new. There's a tiny little crack in the boot there, but I think once the vehicle's down, on its down position, it closes that off. If it gets worse than that, I'll let the customer know, but it's not worth ripping it apart right now. Brakes are good. Nothing loose there. Sway bar link. And the shock looks good. Same situation on the upper ball joint there. As you can see right here, this flat black piece here, that is your spring. There is no coil springs on this. It's one big leaf spring that goes all the way across. You can see it over here as well. That is your suspension, your spring. And it's the same in the rear as well. It's very cool how they did it. The oil that we're seeing here, it came from timing cover seals. Most likely the culprit is the water pump drive seal. The water pump on these is not driven by a serpentine belt. It is driven directly off the camshaft, off some gears in the timing cover. So it is quite a job to get to that. You see a little bit of oil here. It looks like it could be a rear main seal, but it is not. I have already traced it all the way up the bell housing directly to the oil pressure sending unit. I don't know if you can see it. It's way, way, way up there. But you can see it's oily behind the head in there. And it is an oil pressure sending unit. We've got a new one ordered. We'll get that replaced, and that will solve his oil leaks altogether. All this oiliness here is from the oil leaks we just talked about. It is engine oil, it is not transmission fluid. Here's our exhaust, stock exhaust. Reach up in here and test our drive shaft. Look at the U-joints and they're good. We'll check the U-joint here. We'll check the U-joints right here. There's U-joints on the shafts on the drive axles as well. Again, here's our leaf spring I talked about. Shock looks good. Nothing loose there. Brakes look good. Shock looks good there. U-joint is good. Leaf spring, everything is good. Let's check the wheel here. Oh my goodness. Wow! The whole thing moves. You can see the drive shaft moving. That is not good at all. The wheel hub is bad right here. I can actually see the tone ring. If you can look through here, it looks like a little wheel with teeth all over it. It's been scraping on the wheel speed sensor because there's so much play.
Okay, so if you hadn't caught this, what would have happened?
It could break and fall off. It could do damage to the knuckle there as it gets worse and worse. It will probably cause some weird steering feel as well. It's actually very dangerous. So we will definitely get that taken care of. Here's our exhaust, our spare tire. And everything's very clean under there except for the few small issues we found. Let's go ahead and get it on the ground. So we just saw the passenger rear wheel bearing is very, very dangerously bad on this car. I don't know if the customer ever noticed it or not. We already presented it to the customer and he was so happy. He was like, oh, I'm glad you caught that. We gave him a bill. It's gonna be like $2,600 to do all this work. I'm gonna show you here in a minute that it's quite a job to get to the Optispark. And we've got that. And we've got oil leaks. We've got a whole bunch of things to solve on this car and labor, lots of labor. I have run into situations where the customer is hyper-focused on the fact that his engine won't start. And their mind is fixed on it so badly that you say, oh, by the way, we found that your rear wheel bearing is about to fall off, literally about to fall off. Well, I didn't bring it here for that. What are you trying to do, run the bill up? If you want to drive on a wheel bearing that's that bad, go ahead, feel free. But I will annotate it on your ticket. You refuse to fix that. So when it falls off, you can't say, why didn't you tell me about that? We did. We told you about that. These are those situations that maybe you don't have a whole lot of money and you saved up enough money to get this fixed so your engine will run again, and the bill that you thought would be so much ends up being almost double. So be prepared for that. When you take your car to the shop, there could be other things wrong with your car, just like in this situation. I'll open the hood one more time and I'll show you some of the components that have to come off to do this job, and we'll see what it looks like. Look at the front of the water pump, guys, for those of you that are not familiar with LT1s. Just a plate. There is no belt going to it. It is not driven by a belt. In order to do this job to get to the distributor, I have to take the belt off. I have to take the water pump off. I have to take the harmonic balancer off and pull the stub off of the front of the crankshaft. Then I can get to the distributor and pull it off. Then I can do all three seals that are on the timing cover. There's a seal for the shaft that drives the water pump. There's a second seal that drives the Optispark itself. And there's a third seal that is the front main seal for the crankshaft. We'll be replacing all three seals. That job is not done in 15 minutes. It's a long job. You have to be careful when you go back together, because when I first did one of these, I didn't get the seals right, and I had to pull it back apart 5 times. This is multiple years ago when I had just started. My boss said, you're going to have fun with this one. At the time I wasn't Car Wizard, so it was just David. He said, you're going to have fun with this one, David. You're going to have to redo it 3 times. And I was like, why? Why would I have to redo it 3 times? Especially the water pump drive shaft seal. If you don't get it just right, it leaks and you tear it all apart again. So you come to the conclusion, do you want to tackle this in your driveway and redo it 5 times to get it right? Or just finally pay someone to do it? This guy's being very wise. He's tried the other options. He knows that that is not a fun job. I will pay the professionals to do it. Very happy to do it for him, and we're going to get that taken care of so it won't leak anymore and it will start and run every time. So to try and solve this problem, the customer did try the shotgun approach, but luckily they weren't very expensive parts, and I don't blame him because it very likely could have been one of those issues that he thought it could be. But the one that is the problem is the one that will drive you insane to replace. I've known several guys that do mechanic work on the side, and they say that this will make them really work for their money. So it's not an easy job. When I do this job, I will not put your old water pump back on, because when it fails, it'll blow out your distributor again. You will get a new water pump whether you like it or not. You'll also get all 3 seals replaced and a new serpentine belt. It's a comprehensive package. Whenever I do this job, you get all of that or none of that. I won't do the job. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this really sweet Corvette, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. There's more 308 videos to come, and we got really cool boat videos coming. Thanks for watching.